Sielewi man.
Ni tag ulifanya ama?
Sielewi hata hajanieleza man.
Wamekwambia unapeleka police station gani? Central Police.
Hapa nje.
Central Police.
Yeah.
Sawa, na hawajakunyang'anya phone right? Hawajakunyang'anya simu? Wamekunyang'anya simu?
Ile bwana rudisha. Ndio wamenirudishia sasa niongee.
Wanadai aje, wanasema aje?
Sasa nifike huko.
Ufike Nairobi kwanza. Hello.
Yeah.
Wanasema tufike Nairobi kwanza.
Hata nisijua.
Kesho tunaweza fika hivyo Central. Sasa sijui kama utakuwa on but maybe ndakamtuni. Tutajua tutafika huko jina pia kwa huko. Kevo pia kwa huko. Muinde. Acha tupanga sasa nataka kuverify information juu watu waniambia alafu wasoka niambia umempigia nani hapa nikamwambia nipe. So ndo nimecall. Nakwambia nilikuwa nataka kuverify alafu acha tupange alafu tujue kama tutafika kesho Central.
Sawa mzee.
Unapeleka Central jina nani alipelekwa Kamkunji?
Central.
Kama kesho hata kama sio kama minda ndafika hivyo Central kesho.
Okay.
Sawa mzee. Hizo mambo kwa fiti
Mike ndani. How is it mzee? Mimi I've never experienced it.
Nishaikoa inda so mambo itakuwa fiti. Kutakuwa na challenges hapa na pale lakini mambo itakuwa fiti. Usitensi nakwambia. Utakuwa na challenges hapa na pale lakini mambo itakuwa fiti. Nishaikoa inda so mambo itakuwa poa na inda is one of the worst police stations in Nairobi so
like nitakuwa safe hapo ndani.
Nini?
Will I be safe?
Light?
Safe.
Yeah. Rumande is safe.
Designated as the crime scene. At 10:56 p.m., the footage appears to show one man emerging from the cell area with what looks like blood on his hand. Moments later, another individual is seen carrying a rope, adding to the growing mystery surrounding the events that unfolded inside the station that night. By midnight, activity inside the station
There are stories that shake a country for a few days, and then there are stories that refuse to disappear. 1 year later, the death of Albert Ojwang remains one of Kenya's biggest unresolved questions. Albert Ojwang was a teacher from Homa Bay, whose death in police custody sparked national outrage. After his arrest and detention in Nairobi, the National Police Service initially released a statement saying that Albert had sustained head injuries after allegedly hitting his head against the wall inside his cell. That explanation immediately raised questions. Days later, public pressure intensified after postmortem findings contradicted the initial police account, with medical experts indicating injuries that suggested a different sequence of events. Then came another development that fueled even more public debate. A CCTV recording from Central Police Station that appeared to show police officers carrying Albert Ojwang's body before placing it in a police vehicle. The footage became a major point of discussion because many Kenyans questioned whether it was consistent with the initial police narrative that Albert had arrived at the hospital in the condition previously described. The case quickly transformed from the death of one young man into a national conversation about police accountability, abuse of power, and justice. Today, another twist has emerged. A lengthy thread has been published on X by Cyprian Nyakundi, one of Kenya's most followed and influential anonymous commentators on the platform. He is well known for breaking stories, political commentary, and investigative posts. Nyakundi's thread often generates significant national debate. The thread attempts to explain how Albert Ojwang allegedly became caught up in a larger political and security conflict. Before I continue, let me make something very clear. The thread I'm about to read contains allegations and claims made by Cyprian Nyakundi. Many of the individuals mentioned have not been convicted of any offense in relation to these claims, and several of the allegations have not been tested in court. These are not my words, just to make it clear, and I have not changed the wordings on this particular thread. So, allow me to read. This is a tweet by Cyprian is Nyakundi made on X. I will also put a screenshot. I'll put a screenshot here. The headline is Inside the Arrest and Killing of Albert Ojwang, Who Knew What and How? Things that begin on X should remain on X, but once lies, propaganda, and political battles enter the platform, the people who understand how the system works have a duty to explain what happened. So that, according to him, Cyprian understands how the system on X works, because as I've said, he is well known. Well, I'm not here to interpret the tweet, I'm just here to read the tweet for you. This is the story of Albert Ojwang from the online campaign that placed his name inside a dangerous security battle to his arrest, detention, and death. Some parts of this account come from people familiar with the online campaign, and the arrest and several claims involving named individuals have not been tested in court. Okay? To understand how Albert entered this story, you must first understand that there was already a war inside Kenya's security sector, and this was not a small disagreement between junior officers. It was a serious battle involving powerful figures, rival camps, and competing interests, with one side determined to push Deputy Inspector General Eliud Langat out of office. The conflict was linked to wider political divisions between figures associated with the North Rift and those associated with the South Rift, meaning the online campaign was only one part of a much bigger fight. At the center of the campaign was a fake newspaper headline that described Langat as a dirty police officer and claimed that he earned 5 times more than the president. The figure used in the fake headline was 25 million Kenyan shillings, and the message was meant to create anger, ridicule Langat, and convince the public that a senior police officer was earning impossible amount of money. The headline looked like something produced by a respected media house, but it was fake, and that made it more dangerous because ordinary users easily mistake it for real journalism. The people who wanted Langat removed needed the message spread widely, and that meant they required people who understand how X campaigns are organized and pushed. Are you following? This is where a digital operative called Alvan Kinyua entered the picture. Kinyua, who has been linked to political consultant Mutahi Ngunyi, was brought in to identify online teams that could push the campaign and keep the message moving across X. His role was not necessarily to post every message himself, but to find people who already control network of accounts, bloggers, and online campaigners capable of making a hashtag or political message dominate the platform. On X, such campaigns often involve several layers, with one person bringing the job, another person organizing the money and instructions, and a larger group of accounts repeating the message until it appears organic. Kinyua was the link between those who wanted the campaign and the online people who could make it visible. He then approached a man known online as Cesar Torrento, who controlled a strong digital team with the ability to push hashtags, shape conversations, and spread political material quickly. Caesar accepted the job and began recruiting people who could take part in the campaign. Among the people brought into the operation was Kelvin Moinde, a young man from Kisii who was also a close friend to the late Albert Ojwang. This friendship later became one of the most important links in the entire story. Albert was not aware of the sensitive campaign against Langat, and there is no clear evidence showing that he personally posted the fake headline from his own account. What connected him to the campaign was an X account that he, Kevin Moinde, and a woman had acquired together after contributing money. The account was meant to handle online campaigns from time to time, allowing the owners to post political and commercial material without using their personal accounts. That shared ownership later became the doorway through which Albert was dragged into the investigation. The fake newspaper headline was posted from the account, and once investigators began tracing the people behind it, attention moved from the online post to the individuals connected to the account. Kevin Moinde and Alvin Kinyua were arrested as investigators tried to establish who created the fake headline, who paid for the campaign, and who had instructed the online team to target Langat. The pressure around the investigation was intense. Kinyua was linked to Mutai Gunyi, and information from people familiar with the arrest indicates that he was never formally booked and was released. That part of the story remains important because Kinyua was the person who brought the campaign to the online team, meaning he was closer to the source of the job than the young people later questioned over the account. Kevin Muinde was taken to Kamukunji police station, where investigators demanded that he explain who was operating the account and who had posted the fake headline. The atmosphere around the case was extremely intense, with Langat determined to find the original source of the campaign and identify everyone connected to the message. During the questioning, Moinde named Albert Ojwang as one of the people connected to the account. He also named the woman who had contributed money to acquire the account and who was also questioned after being arrested. We also don't know what she told authorities, but I'm trying to lay my hands on their statements. 2 days after Moinde's arrest, police officers went for Albert. That timing is important because Albert appears to have been the last known owner of the account to be arrested, meaning investigators had already questioned other people before turning their attention to him. The question that remains unanswered is what exactly investigators believed Albert knew. Was he being arrested because they believed he had posted the headline, or was he being pressured to reveal the people who had financed and organized the campaign? The original job came through Alvin Kinyua, who then contacted Cesar Torrento, who then brought in people including Kevin Moinde. Albert was several steps away from the people who started the campaign, yet he became the person who was arrested, transported to Nairobi, and later died in police custody. This is the part of the story that makes his death even more troubling. Kevin Moinde has never publicly explained what he told investigators during his detention, what questions he was asked, or why Albert's name was brought into the case. He has remained silent even after people repeatedly asked him to speak about the events that led to arrest of his close friend. Moinde must eventually explain what happened, not because the public is interested in online gossip, but because Albert died after his name entered the investigation. He must tell the public whether he identified Albert as an owner of the account, whether investigators forced him to name people, and whether Albert was ever accused of personally creating or posting the fake headline. He must also explain whether investigators already knew about Alvan Kinyua, Cesar Torrento, or whether the inquiry focused mainly on the people who had access to the account. Albert was arrested after a digital campaign. He may not have known about what placed his name inside a security battle involving powerful people. He was taken from his home, transported to Nairobi, and detained over an online post connected to a shared account. He later died in police custody. The authorities initially gave an account suggesting that Albert had injured himself inside the police station, but that version was widely challenged after questions emerged about injuries found in his body and the events surrounding his detention. The case stopped being simple investigation into a fake headline and became a national story about police custody, abuse of authority, and the killing of a young man who may have been used as the weakest link in a much larger operation. Albert's death cannot be understood by looking only at the final hours inside the police station. The story began earlier with a security war, a fake headline, a paid online campaign, a chain of digital operatives, and investigators searching for the people behind the message. At one end of that chain were powerful people fighting for control and influence. At the other end was Albert Ojwang, a young man connected to her ex account through friendship and shared ownership. Somewhere between those two hands, Albert became the person police officers decided to arrest. He never returned home alive. Kenyans must now praise Alvan Kinyua to speak because he's alive. He was close to the source of the job, and investigators appear to have handled him with kid gloves before turning their attention to people further down the chain. He must tell the country who gave him the assignment, why Langat was being targeted, how much money changed hands, who paid it, and why the people closest to the source of the campaign were released while Albert Ojwang ended up dead in police custody. The recent attempts to introduce fresh stories and side dramas into this case look like an effort to move attention away from people who started the campaign and protected someone higher up the chain. Alvan Kinyua must speak plainly because this was no longer just an online job once Albert was arrested and killed. Who gave him the job? Who funded it? How much was paid? And why he was so treated gently by investigators? Now, that is a tweet from Cyprian Isnyakundi on X. And like he has started by saying on the first paragraph, things that happen on X should remain on X. But once lies, propaganda, and political battles enter the platform, the people who understand how the system works, have a duty to explain what happened. Whether every detail in it is accurate remains for investigators, the courts, and any official inquiries to establish. However, if even parts of allegations are true, then they raise significant questions about how Albert Ojwang became a suspect in the first place. According to the thread, Albert Ojwang was allegedly linked to an X account that was jointly owned with other individuals. The post further alleges that investigators traced that account while investigating a fake newspaper headline targeting Deputy Inspector General Eliud Langat. The thread names several individuals and alleges different roles. One, Deputy Inspector General Eliud Langat is described as the suspect of the fake newspaper headline that investigators were trying to trace. He has publicly denied wrongdoing in relation to Albert's death and has not been convicted of any offense connected to the case. Second, Alvan Kinyua. Alvan Kinyua is alleged in the thread to have connected those behind the online campaign with digital influencers capable of amplifying the message. These claims have not been tested in court. Third is Cesar Torrento. Cesar Torrento is alleged to have coordinated online campaigners involved in promoting the content. These allegations also remain unproven. Fourth, Kelvin Moinde. He is described as Albert's friend and is alleged in the thread to have identified Albert during police questioning because of their shared ownership of the X account. Kelvin has not publicly confirmed the version of events presented in the thread. According to Nyakundi's account, Albert was not necessarily portrayed as the originator of the fake headline, but allegedly became connected to the investigation because of the shared account. Again, these are allegations contained in the X thread and should not be treated as established fact unless confirmed through official investigations or judicial proceedings. 1 year later, many questions remain unanswered. Albert Ojwang is dead. The country knows that he died while in police custody. The initial police account was challenged by medical evidence and became the suspect of widespread public scrutiny. The CCTV footage released later intensified questions about what happened during Albert's final hours. Yet, many Kenyans continue to ask, has everyone responsible been held accountable? Have all the circumstances leading to Albert's arrest been fully explained? If this X thread contains information investigators have already examined, what conclusions have they reached? If it contains new information, should it be independently investigated? And most importantly, are there people higher up the chain who have yet to answer difficult questions? Ultimately, those answers should come through credible investigations and the justice system, not social media alone. 1 year later, Albert Ojwang's family is still waiting for justice, and many Kenyans are still waiting for the full truth. Story done.